Hi, welcome to BS of the Week. You're joining us after the Week 2 games. I am Patrick Driggett, coach of the Berlin Fire, and I am joined by my friends.
Hi there, I'm Kevin Lucy from the Glasgow Rushmores.
And I'm Conrad Whittingham, coach of the Venice Rivets.
Oh, the Rivets. We've heard of this team before. Conrad's joining us after an absolutely incredible record was broken here at Gridiron 3. Without further ado, I want to let Conrad talk about this really cool record that he broke and kind of give us some thoughts and details about it. Go ahead, Conrad.
Oh, cheers, Patrick. Yeah, no, it was a good, lovely way to kind of get the record, in that it wasn't too stressful in the end, because it was one of those games where sometimes just everything goes right and the offense just clicked and kept scoring and scoring. Field goals or TDs didn't matter. But the defense was just fabulous.
So just so we can remind our guests, though, what is the record? It's the most regular game win streak, the longest regular game win streak, which is 62 now. Is that correct? Yeah.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. So it's the regular season win streak, which is the one that's noted on the website in the inside the numbers bit. Okay. So the record has stood for over now 25, approaching 26 seasons, with Mark Spencer in the GFL, who had 61 from season 4 to 10. So it's been a lot of years to get the record, and given that the next kind of chasing teams, I think, are about 17 is the longest win streak currently going, then the record is safe for a few years, which is really, really cheerful. But yeah, it's been a long time coming, and have been trying to keep the team going, even though it's getting older and older and older, with this hope of getting that record.
Yeah, congratulations!
Conrad.
No, it's amazing. It's really fun thing to do. It's been a real kind of challenge to keep us going over these last few seasons.
What were you thinking going into the Eagles game? Like, did you plan it? Did you plan differently to try to? Is there anything like thinking into like, I need to guarantee this, that you would have done differently than if you had normally game planned it?
I don't think so, but I did just really kind of keep a close eye on what they'd been doing. And although it's only recent, only really had week 1 and a bit of preseason to go on. Preseason wasn't much use because Andy Bate, then of course he wasn't there last season, but I'd looked up kind of what he'd done the season before to try and see if there were some trends that I could kind of grab on for game playing this week. And it looked as though it was pretty much, if you could hold his outside running game, and he was very much then just short pass. So kind of focused on those two areas and thought, if he passes long, we'll get ripped, but it doesn't, that's the risk. And fortunately he ran outside and passed short. So the defense kind of stepped right up.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's an exciting thing for the league, I think. I think as much as people joke about the Big Sky being a kind of a joke league, I think, for lots of seasons, we've really been trying hard. Like, I think coaches have been getting better. I think everyone's trying, and now it's really just, you're the giant in the room and you're a target, I think, for everyone. And as nice as you are, like, I think everyone loves, I think you're a great person, but everyone wants to win now. And I think as the Big Sky has become more competitive, which I definitely see on the LFC, it's kind of cool because it puts this big marker on your back, but also it's a thing for us to strive to. It's, it'd be cool if one day Big Sky wasn't considered the way it is, but it is, until proven differently. But this is cool. Like, it's really cool. And I hope that people kind of look at your strategy and kind of think about like how they can incorporate parts of what you're doing with trading and special teams and, just your strategy to the game.
And there's a lot of good coaches now in the Big Sky. More and more have come in, and the new coaches coming in seem, again, really keen to kind of just go for it and learn and really pick everything up, which is just going to mean as their teams get better and better, the whole thing is going to get more and more competitive. So I think we've kind of had this window when we peaked at the right time to start with, and we managed to keep it going. But I think once we do get toppled, then it'll take a while to kind of try and catch up again, for sure, because there's going to be lots of good teams competing and lots of strength in depth across both conferences. Really, there's lots of good coaches kind of coming up in both.
That sounds to me like you're in here for the long haul. I was worried that you'd set the record and then one day you'll finally lose and then you'll just go on to greener pastures.
No, I think as well, the thing is that it's because the team's getting so old. If we have one bad aging as well, if you were a new coach and you couldn't trade, it'd be really difficult.
Yeah.
Because then you'd be trying to almost rebuild, but you wouldn't have many draft picks left and you'd have a really aging roster and it'd be really difficult to do. So it would have, do you know what I mean? It would be really difficult. So instead I look at it and think, well, almost every season we go on trying to compete now is probably a season extra it will take to try and turn it later. Because we're just, the value of the players when they age off is just not going to be there to get in picks like some of the teams who had loads of round ones the last few years and stuff. That just won't be the case. We'd never be able to do that because with the aging, we pick up lots of mid-round picks, I think, for lots of the veterans with a year of aging down, but they'll take a long while to coach back up. So I think once we fall off that cliff, then it'll take a while to get back up, and that will be tough, really tough for a new coach to do.
I wonder, I mean, I'm at least curious about, like, is there some sort of, like, once that finally happens, is there like a sense of kind of relief and relaxation and even excitement about just now getting like a new roster built? Like, is that something you're kind of looking forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's fun just drafting and having lots of draft picks and stuff, doing that. Whereas loads of that's just been traded away to try and get in veterans to fill gaps short term. So that'll be really fun again to kind of just have a draft where you've got like a dozen picks and stuff and to be able to have lots of fun doing that. So we'll be right back at the bottom and the stars again, but it will be really good fun kind of being able to recreate something perhaps in a very different style to what we've done so far.
Do you have a prediction for who? So now you've hit the record, so now it's about extending that record. Who's the biggest challenge for you in the schedule coming up?
I think week 4 away at the Hornets is just like, that's going to be really tough. That's going to be really tough because they've traded in aggressively in the off season. So they've basically brought in some really good defensive players. So if they can stop us a lot more, then with them having the home advantage, that's going to be, I think, a real challenge. And then week 8 again away at the Generals, because if their running game keeps going like it is,
I mean, they beat the Rapiers pretty handily. And I did not see that coming. So
no, they're looking really strong so far. So, and those both being away, if we were at home, I'd be a lot more confident. But away from home, they'll be the particular tough ones, I think.
Yeah. Kev, do you have any questions for Conrad? I feel like I've been taking up the conversation here.
No, it's all fine, sir. It's all fine.
Well, thank you, Conrad. We really appreciate you being here. You've been such a friend and supporter of the show, and I'm glad that we can kind of just every once in a while message you. This was just such an important weekend, and we wanted. I mean, this is for you as much as anything. Like, I think you deserve the praise and time. You're the biggest part of the league in some ways, and so we really appreciate. We really appreciate you coming on and talking about it. So I know people like it too. I think people enjoy hearing from you. So
that's brilliant.
So Tev, we had week 2 games in which this record was broken. Do you have some thoughts about the PFC?
Yep. Well, obviously, if we go through the games, we already know about the Eagles 6 and the Rivets 44, so we won't talk about that anymore. Next game on the list was the Bombers 21 and the Devils 42. Congratulations to Zane here. Zane, I don't know, but I know he's been around and come back into Big Sky. I think he's been away for a while. From what I've seen from the outside, if you like, he looks a very, very experienced coach. He traded well, he drafted well, and our congratulations have got to go out to him because that is the Devils' first win since game 3 of season 34. So that's quite an achievement just in itself. In his second week of taking charge, then he's managed to turn it around and get a win. He's putting together quite a good quite a good passing offense, led obviously by one of his trade picks, which is the ex-quarterback from the Rushmores, Hobson, who was actually the MVP this week. He's still got some holes in his defense, which he needs to address. But overall, I'm very impressed with the way it's coming forward. Jeff, your turn's going to come because Jeff hasn't had a win since game 3 of season 33. So it's an even longer stretch. But I'm sure if you keep at it, Jeff, it will happen for you, mate. It will happen.
Yeah, we're cheering for you.
Yeah, next game on the list is Warriors 10 and the Maroons 41. Basically 27-0 at half-time. That just about tells the whole story. Ruthless offense from Scott. A genuine mix of passing and rushing. Basically, with 268 yards passing, 214 yards rushing. It keeps on the heels of the Rivets, should we say. It keeps the Rivets honest. Not saying they're going to overtake them, but if there's any slip up, then they're there to take the way. Good performances, good solid performances from quarterback Samuels, from their running back Rambour, who had 122 yards, and from Seven, their wide receiver, who had 145 yards. And that really is what saw them home in this game. Some good solid performances. Next one on my list is the Huskies. Huskies against the Rough Riders. Huskies 0, Rough Riders 16. This is the Rough Riders' second win of the season. So could it be that that equals Peter's record for last season, all told? Could this be the Rough Riders making a return, as it were? It's early days yet, and next week's game against the Packers we'll really see just how far they have come, whether it's a bit of a false dawn or whether they're making some genuine progress. The game itself, to be quite honest, was really nothing to write home about. 124 yards passing, 119 yards rushing, good defense, but the performance never really let the Huskies into the game, so it was a bit of a one-sided affair there. Next one, Stormers 21, Generals 35. And we said it before, a bit about Alex's mighty rushing offense. And by gosh, did this game actually prove it? Because that really was the difference in this game. What you had is you had 424 yards rushing, with the MVP guy we all know, Hooker, rushing for an incredible 389 yards of that. It's awesome. And if you have not got a run defense set up, you are in deep trouble every time you play the Generals, because by gosh, they have some performance. And Mark Stormers, they're no mugs. So this was a very, very good a win here. It was pretty impressive the way it was all done. So congratulations there. Next one, Chargers 20, Titans 31. A 10-point spread was actually predicted on this game, and it ended up as an 11-point spread. So the spread accuracy was pretty good here. The Chargers, believe it or not, set off and held a 10-point lead. And then at halftime, they still were hanging on to a lead, 17-10. But then in the second half, the Titans passing game kicked into thing with MVP Cagliostri, their quarterback, throwing for a massive 504 yards.
That's a lot of yards.
Just some going. Linking with his wide receiver Amira for 354 yards of those. And to be quite blunt, Chris's Chargers really just could not cope with that, as probably many of us couldn't. It's a pretty awesome offense there. Next one, Surfers 42. And the Bulldogs 36. Now here we've got two teams that we just talked about a little bit that look as if they're on the up. They look as if they're sort of progressing upwards, as it were. And these two teams just fought it out like gladiators in the ring. It was one heck of a game. And it was basically defenses be damned. Let's just take the ball down the other end and score. It's as simple as that. The Surfers got off to a 14-point lead. Then we had 28 unanswered points from Miranda's Bulldogs. And then it's sort of... we had 15 unanswered points from Gary. So it was sort of one side, then the other side, and it was just back and forth like that. And then Miranda again went into the lead and made it 36-29. Then the scores were all tied. And then, believe it or not, on 59 minutes and 10 seconds, a 78-yard power pitch to the most valuable player, running back Barrow, managed to get the winning score for the Surfers. A fantastic game. Could have gone either way. Commiserations to Miranda, whose team I think is improving quite a bit, and well done to Gary Surfers there. Excellent performance.
Well said.
And the last game that I was going to talk about is I'm going to talk about a bit later on, because that's my game of the week.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, thanks. Those were great. I appreciate the insight there, Kevin. Conrad, LFC, what do you think?
Right. For the LFC, what I'll do is I'll pick out 3 of the games that particularly kind of jumped out for various reasons. And the first one is the Sharks v the Phoenix. And this was Sharks 27, Phoenix 28. So an absolute thriller of a game. And it was one of those, which was an absolutely brilliant win for Ian and the Phoenix, because in their division with others like the Fire and the Statesman having good starts, if you go 0-2, it's going to be really, really difficult. And they've got a tough schedule as well. And this was one which honestly was like a coin toss and could have gone either way. And it was in the end, and this extra point for the Sharks meant they were 1 down. 5 turnovers didn't help either, kind of on that. Despite all of that, they were driving late, getting into field goal range to kind of clinch the win. And their star running back, who'd run for 205 yards rampant, who's just seem a beast, that running back, he then fumbles. And that was it. They just then couldn't get the ball back. And it was one of those games as well that there were lots of injuries, which then makes it harder for both teams going forward. So I think Ben had put in the comments, I think he's got 2 wide receivers with C injuries and 1 with a B. And Phoenix lost Quintero, who rushed for 219 with an F injury, and his main starting guard with an E injury. So there were loads of injuries all over the place on it. So it was one of those games, really hard-fought, brutal game, but the Phoenix absolutely had to win, and they did, and that was just fantastic effort by Ian in that one. But I think Ben will look back and think, just the rub of the green just wasn't quite with him, and that was one which a number of things could have gone slightly differently, and he would have come away with the win. Brilliant game on that one. The next game I'd pick out was again another really good close one, which was Irish v the Fire, and Irish 19 and the Fire 23, which again a fantastically exciting game on this one, and it all seemed to revolve around a really tiny period of the match to turn it on its head, because the Irish looked as though they were holding the Fire well, and it was 19-6, they'd got ahead, and you're thinking, okay, it's actually now going to be really difficult for the Fire to get back into it. And then it was a 6-minute patch that just turned the whole game. So first of all, what was it? 31-yard play action and a 41-yard TD run made it 19-13. Then 2 plays later, interception, return for a touchdown by the Fire, suddenly gave them the lead 20-19. And then another interception led to a very long 54-yard field goal, 23-19. And after that, it was just brilliance on defense by the Fire. And they gave up just 1 first down the whole rest of the game, which was on 4th and inches. And that was it. They didn't give up one more first down for the rest of the game and just held the Irish out completely. So to come from behind, get that 23-19, brilliant victory, but as well, the way the defense played must be, well, it's really encouraging on that. It was just
we haven't had a good defense for a while. Yeah, we haven't had a good defense for a while. I've been working very hard on that. You know what was exciting? We had 4 interceptions, but it was from 4 different players, which is kind of cool. So that was exciting to see. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for calling out that game. That's exciting to hear you talk about.
No, it was really, a really, really good one on that one. And it's one of those, again, that this one looked as though it was just going the Irish's way. And then suddenly it was just transformed. And then, it was like a brick wall on defense that just didn't let anything else through. And the third game we're going to pick out is actually really one-sided. It was the Giant Hornets 47 and the Knights 7. And the reason why I'm picking this one out was just because this is almost return of the Giant Hornets, because week 1 they did look quite shaky. It was really weird, I think. And Colin, it was that thing, wasn't it? He'd said they didn't have a motivation coach, so they were kind of reduced levels across the board, and nothing seemed to be quite clicking. And it was one of those where they could have actually been turned over week 1 in a massive upset. Week 2, completely different. This was just a brutal display. It was really, really impressive. So the offense and the pass attack, as fabulous as always. And it was Escobar is the new Tripson. Yeah. But Escobar and Tripson combined were 17 catches for 211. It's absolutely crazy what he's managed to kind of do, building that running back receiving attack. Absolutely brilliant. Defense was fabulous as well. Just held the Knights' run attack to kind of 2 a carry. And again, the passing game got a little bit more success, but not that many yards. And special teams, Gumball, who is the new the returner who they've been developing up, he was 39 on his kick return and he averaged nearly 14 on his punt returns. So it was all 3 phases of the game. They just looked completely different to week 1. Really, really impressive. And 47-7, and they definitely look as though, again, suddenly they're back to number 1 seed in the LFC that quickly. And it's that thing of, that they look incredibly strong, and what they've added on defense looks as though they'll be the team to beat for sure this year.
Yeah, definitely the team to beat for sure. They have to be favorites going to the bowl right now.
Yeah, but there's lots of other teams it's really weird. There's loads of 2-0s, isn't it? And 0-2s in the LFC. It seems to be quite polarized. So it'd be interesting if, again, some of those other 2-0s kind of are going to give them a real challenge.
I'm waiting for I'm waiting for the Fire to lose. I just don't think we're there yet, but it's exciting to have a 2-0, so I'll take it. It's the first time I felt any amount of success with them in a while. So, well, so, speaking about your game, Sharks versus Phoenix, that's where our coach of the week comes from. So, based on all the reasons you said, a great performance. The coach of the week is Ian Stevenson of the Phoenix. So, congrats to him. That was a brilliant game. I know we very easily could have been saying Ben's name this week. So, it was that close. So, great game. Congrats to Coach Stevenson of the Phoenix. So, Kev, do you have a game of the week for us? I think you were going to tell us about that.
I do indeed, yes. The game of the week is the Rapiers 37, the Packers 38. So 75 points. Again, a very boring game for the crowd to watch. 2 negative teams. This was an unbelievable game. All joking apart, it was absolutely cracking. And the best way really to describe it is to give you the score by score. So the game started off and the Rapiers went 7-0 ahead. Okay, so great start. But then, of course, it was 7-all because the Packers came back. They then got a field goal to make it 10-7. So the Packers are now leading 10-7. And then they go 17-7. And we go, okay, here we go again. Packers are now going to extend their lead. But no. It's 17-14. And then basically the Rapiers decide that they're going to take the lead and go 20-17. And then, but Packers basically go, no, not for long. let's make it 24-20 to the Packers. So as you can see, the game's just going backwards and forwards. Then, of course, the Rapiers decide, no, you're not having any of that. Let's make it 27-24 in our favor. And then let's pull away. Let's go 34-24. And it's like, okay, so now we've got a game on. And basically, Tom then sort of says, well, not so fast, mate. We're going to go 34-31. So we're going to pull it back. To which Phil goes, okay, anything you can do, let's get a field goal. 37-31 to the Rapiers. Tom then basically said, look, mate, I've had enough of this. Let's get a touchdown converted with an extra point to make it 38-37, end of game, bye-bye, tardla. So that was one heck of a game. 38-37 was the final score. It was a fabulous game. So what made the difference? Well, to be quite honest, any game that's 38-37, any game with 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, it could be a toss of a coin. It could go either side. Personally, I like the way Tom is building his offense because he's got a very nice mixed offense there, which is just as lethal whether he's going in the air or whether he's going on the ground. And the problem is it makes it very, very difficult to actually defend against because, as I say, both of them are probably just as good as each other. I mean, in that particular game, he was 245 yards passing and 233 yards rushing. So as soon as you think you've got one thing plugged up, he switches to the other. Fantastic game, a great effort. And it's really weird to look at the standings and see that Phil actually hasn't got a win yet this season. And yet he's got a fantastic team there. I'm absolutely positive that he'll get his first win next week.
It feels a little bit like the Statesman last year, huh? It's like, it's like you come out, you can't get the wins or you're not doing that great. I think he absolutely, the Rapiers will be in the playoffs as a wild card.
Yeah, mind you, anyone playing against the Packers, they're going to come up against it because Tom's got one heck of a team there.
Yeah.
And as Conrad was saying earlier on, we have a lot of very good coaches, both in the LFC and the PFC. And the Packers is obviously one of those teams that is just sitting there waiting to pounce, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, were the Packers the team that almost played spoiler in the playoffs last year? Conrad?
Yeah, I mean, they were
they're a threat.
Incredibly unlucky not to be that. I think our the aging legs on defense just basically second half collapsed and couldn't stop it, and it was something in the analysis. There's the analysis tab after the games, and it was something crazy. Like every run on average was adding around 4 yards a carry. Because the defense was so tired and stuff like that. So the Packers are brilliant. But they're consistently, isn't it? Every single year.
Well, I was going to say it is consistent. It's not a one-off. It's year after year after year. I mean, they would be bowl contenders in any other division or any other league. I think whether it be the Atlantic or the Delta or the Continental, they would be there or thereabouts with a team as strong as that.
Yeah. Awesome.
So that was my game of the week, and a cracking game it was too.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Kev. Awesome. So week 3 is coming up. Conrad, what are your games to watch for week 3?
I've picked one from each half, and the one from the PFC is Generals at the Titans. So this is 2 unbeaten teams, both 2-0. Generals, not so surprising, they're 2-0. Number 1 rushing attack, Hooker, with an incredible 580 yards in 2 weeks is pretty spectacular. The Titans are the surprise because let's face it, they're kind of like their training camp rating is extremely weak. They've traded out loads of veterans, but they've looked brilliant the first 2 weeks on the back of, again, Kev, not quite sure how to pronounce this. You tried earlier. It's Cagliostro.
Yes,
back there, throwing to Omega at wide receiver, and they're both number 1 in the league after 2 weeks. And it's that thing of suddenly, if the offense catches fire, you just never know what can happen. And defensively, they've got lots more young players in because, again, lots of the really good vets have gone away, but they still have again, pronouncing something like Nikal Fjorden or something. He's like a 25-letter surname. He's their leading tackler. And he's a really good defensive end. And everyone knows he is because he was on the trade boards for a while at a very high level. So it's as though, yeah, there's young players, but there are also some really good players and some promising bits there. And let's face it as well, James Allen as a coach, he's going to game plan very well. So they're kind of never to be taken for granted that even if in theory the roster's weak, that they'll get beaten. So I think that could be a really good one, but it's another good test for the Generals. So if this is one of those that they'll really, well, they really want to win to kind of keep their kind of season going strongly. But yeah, if the Titans can slow down Hooker, it'll be interesting to see if kind of how the Generals react and if they've got enough pass attack to take advantage. But that could be quite a good one. And then the other one picked up in the NFC is Bucks v Phoenix. And again, the Buccaneers 2-0, perhaps a little bit of a surprise there. If you ask kind of Adrian about it, because he was surprised it kind of started so strongly. Nightmare injuries with your QB going down week one, what was it, with a F or a G, really bad injuries, and cornerback again injured with a D. It's like, it's not great on that. But this is a brilliant test for them. 2-0, but taking on a Phoenix team just coming off the back of that brilliant win against the Sharks. So Bucks offense looks a little bit shaky, and that may be the thing that holds them back. So if the Phoenix can get that run attack going, admittedly, without Quintero, it'll just have to be Verdell. But if they get enough going, you sense if it comes anything like a shootout, then the Phoenix will have it. But it's a good test for the Bucks, and it is again another one that in a tough division, the Phoenix ideally need to be kind of coming away with a win to keep up in the chase with the Fire and the Statesmen. But the injuries kind of actually for both those teams will make it a very interesting game, and a bit of a curveball could get thrown in there. But if you were betting on the odds, you'd say, Phoenix likely to win, but you just don't know. And again, Ade's a very experienced coach, and he's won stuff and won bowls in the past and stuff. So you never know quite what he'll pull out of the hat.
That'll be exciting.
They'd be the two I'd go for.
Yeah. Thanks, Conrad. Kev, how about you?
Yeah, well, obviously, I would concur with Conrad. I think those are two good shouts. In addition, though, I'd ask you to keep a lookout for two other games. The Massive against the Fire and the 66ers against the Weasels. Those are the two games that I'd recommend. The Massive against the Fire. Martin, if you look at his schedule, has an unbelievably tough schedule this season. And to be quite blunt, I think if he loses this game to the Fire, his season is just about done, because he really has very little hope of getting even into the playoffs from that situation. So I think this is a must-win for Martin. And as for our anchorman sitting quietly in the corner there, hoping to sneak under the radar and sneak his way into a playoff position. Looking at his schedule, I think if he wins this game, he is looking at almost a guaranteed 6-4 or 7-3 season. And as we know, in the LFC, 6-4 many occasions has got into the playoffs. I think it could be 7-3 required this time, but I think Patrick is sitting again in a good position, particularly if he wins this, gets off to a 3-0 start. It'd be a great reason for that. So that's one I would watch.
Yeah, the thing that makes that weird, and the reason I'm a little more bearish on the team is I'm ranked 19th in offense and 19th on defense. Like, I know we're 2-0, but I just don't feel like we have what it takes. I mean, I would be absolutely excited if we won, but I just don't know that we have all the pieces yet. I do think this
might not have all the pieces, but the schedule doesn't look too bad for you. To be
I mean, if we beat the Massive, you're
going to have to lose to us, obviously.
Yeah. I think if we beat the Massive, it'll be a good sign. But I'm skeptical. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and the other game I'm going to ask you to keep an eye out for is the 66ers against the Weasels. Now, basically, the question we've got to ask ourselves is newcomer Ben, who's in his very first season, is he the new dark horse to sneak into a playoff place? Because so far this season, he's 2-0. And he's looked quite impressive as well. So he started his gridiron career very, very well. He must be very pleased with that. So congratulations, Ben. You're off to a cracking start. And the irony of it all is that the guy he's playing this week, Craig, did exactly the same last season, which was his first season, and he got off to a cracking start, 2-0, before finishing up 4-6, which again for your very first season is very creditable indeed. But again, we were looking at the 66ers causing some shocks last season. So this one really is a let's find out where we are type game. 66ers, Craig's got to get a win. He hasn't had a win so far this season. And if he doesn't, then he could be slipping back a little bit and playoff might be getting out of his reach already. But as for the Weasels, they've got an opportunity here to make people sit up and take note because they are still undefeated. So again, that will be an interesting one just to keep an eye out on. So those are my two games in addition to Conrad's ones.
Awesome. Great call outs. Yeah, awesome show. Conrad, thank you again for coming to visit us and celebrate your record. And yeah, it's really the season has not disappointed. I'll say that. Like I think there's been some great games already, some good upsets, and just some massively competitive games. Pretty cool season so far.
Yeah.
So excited for that. Thank you all for out there for watching. Get those green check marks, and let's. I felt like Saturday was awesome. I woke up and the games were done. I literally thought I woke up and the yellow bar wasn't down yet. I'm like, wait a second, the games have already run. That is the best thing to wake up, to on the West Coast of the United States. So let's hope for that again. Yeah, thank you all for coming on the show. Thank you all for watching, and have an awesome week. Bye.
Good night, everyone.